Hey everybody, Erica here, hanging out with Navi and Tala. With Halloween coming up, I thought it'd be fun to do a Halloween-inspired episode for you. And how do we associate wolves and Halloween? But of course with werewolves. So I did just a little bit of digging, and the term werewolf is actually thought to have stemmed from an Old English word, werewolf, W-U-L-F, in the 5th century. But in some legends, werewolves are believed to be people that morph into wolves. In other legends, werewolves are a hybrid between a man and a wolf. But in all cases, werewolves are bloodthirsty creatures that cannot control their need to kill. Now, it's uncertain when exactly the legend of the werewolf originated. Some scholars believe that the werewolf made its first debut in the Epic of Gilgamesh in 2100 BC, but werewolves also appear in early Greek mythology with the legend of Lycaon, and in early Nordic folklore with the saga of Volsungs. But in Ovid's Lycaon, the transformation is based upon past immoral behaviors. And this is the story that our modern day werewolf tells most likely came from. But it wasn't until the late 20th century that the idea that there was a link between biology and immoral behavior fully developed. Many so-called werewolves from centuries ago were in fact serial killers. Burgo, Vernon, Garnier are some of the most famous cases. And whether or not they were mentally ill, under the influence, or cold-blooded killers is still up for debate. But a lot of serial murder cases contain statements from the accused murderer claiming that they had turned into a wolf and then committed their crime. Now, it's possible that these people suffered from a very rare psychological condition called lycanthropy, in which a person actually believes that they can turn into a wolf. But it's also possible that they were just murderers blaming their crimes on werewolves. Which, who knows, maybe that's where the term "he's crying wolf" came from. But either way, to suspicious Europeans in the 16th century, that wasn't enough. To them, crimes like these could only be committed by a vicious beast such as the werewolf. Peter Stubble in Germany is probably the most notorious werewolf case. Legend has it that at night he would turn into a werewolf-like creature and devour the citizens of Bedburg, Germany. It is the circumstances of his life and death that started a very rampant fear at the time that werewolves were on the loose. Now, it's possible that werewolves have a medical explanation. Take Peter the Wild Boy, for example. In 1725, he was found wandering naked on all fours through a forest in Germany. Many people believe that he was either a werewolf or at least raised by wolves. But later research found that he suffered from Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. It's possible that some of these people were afflicted with what is sometimes called werewolf syndrome, in which a person has excessive hair growth over their entire body. But extreme cases of hypotrichosis are very rare. In fact, in the last since the medieval times, there have only been 50 reported cases. So it's possible that werewolf myths started when people mistook sufferers of hypotrichosis as a human-wolf hybrid. Now, the method or the reasoning behind why a werewolf transformation happens does vary depending on what legend you're looking at. Some legends believe that werewolves can transform at will due to a curse. Others state that transformation happens with the help of an enchanted sash or cloak made out of a wolf pelt, while others say that any person can become a werewolf if they are bitten or scratched by a werewolf. But in many stories, transformation doesn't fully happen until there is a full moon. To this day, we still have a association of full moons, werewolves, and madness. A lot of people believe that when there is a full moon, there are more likely to be acts of violent crimes or unusual behavior. And the fact is, this is probably just due to there being more light for people to be out doing stupid things. Studies have not found any correlation between a full moon and any sort of unusual behavior. But for centuries, people have been using werewolves and other mythical creatures to explain the unexplainable. Nowadays, most people believe werewolves are pop icons in the horror world. They can be found in countless books, movies, and TV shows, from the horror classic The Wolfman to Twilight and the Underworld series. There is still very much a werewolf following, and there are werewolf sightings reported every year. But hopefully you guys have watched a few vlogs and you can know for yourselves that about the only thing that real wolves and werewolves have in common is that they both have fur. And of course, how can I do a Halloween vlog without talking a little bit about Halloween? Now, I am going to ruin this for you because we do have a full moon on this Halloween, but wolves do not howl at the moon. They howl to communicate. Now, howling is actually one of the most studied animal vocalizations. We know that wolves howl for many different reasons, but a lot of times we see them looking up towards the sky while they're howling. This is just due to their physiology, so they're not looking at the moon. When they reach their head up and stretch their neck, it allows that sound to travel a lot farther. They also howl with wavering or changing tones, which again helps the sound to travel farther, but it also makes it more difficult to follow an individual wolf's howl. The changing tones will also reflect more off of the landscape, and it can make it sound like there are more wolves around than there actually are. So this would be advantageous to a wolf that is by itself, howling to try and find its pack, but it doesn't want a rival wolf pack to find it. A wolf's tone can also change with emotional state. Some of the most common reasons why wolves howl can be to locate one another, to rally before going on a hunt, to ward off rival packs. Lone wolves will howl to find a mate. Wolves will howl with each other to cement social bonds or create a social hierarchy. The list can go on and on. But research is still being done heavily into howling. We do know that each wolf has their own voice, and every howl has its own meaning, but we haven't quite cracked the code of what all those different howls mean. But biologists have found that wolves will respond to humans imitating their howl. So on that note, I'm going to howl because we all know our wolves will howl back, but I want you guys to pay attention when they're howling. Listen for those different tones, their different voices, but also notice that they only howl for about 5 seconds at a time. They will howl, they will stop, listen to the other wolves, and then they'll start howling again. All right, guys, pretty cool. Well, hopefully you learned some things about werewolves and howling that you didn't know before. Have a safe and fun holiday, and we'll see you on the next one.